I've just remembered you promised a deep dive on North Korea, so you need to do that for like either Patreon or next week.
Okay. Let's include that in the intro.
And just very quickly, for those that were tuning in for the deep dive on North Korea and how that was all going to work with their qualifications, Sarah is so ADHD she forgot that that's what she's doing. So unfortunately, it's not happening in this episode. However, I will bug her during the week to do the research, and we will do it as either a News in 10 Patreon or we will put it in next week's episode.
It will happen in the next episode, everybody. I promise. I swear. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Women's Soccer Show. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Allie.
And it's International Break Part 2, I suppose, since we did Part 1 last week, Allie.
We did. And for those who are like me and are not a fan of it, it's now over. And we go back to our regularly scheduled programming next week.
However, it's not going to be over yet, because we do get to discuss it for the next hour. If you missed our last week's episode, it was really fun. We basically just talked through how every single continent does qualifying for the World Cup, every region, which is very exciting, since today we're going to talk about UEFA qualifying, where we stand right now, what's going on in it. We're going to talk a little bit about Spain and England. Mainly, I just have two questions, from each of the about each of the countries to discuss, and then of course we go around the world and over across the pond to the U.S. Women's National Team, who played Japan 3 times. What were the big takeaways? What did we learn from it? From what Emma Hayes said after each game, if anything, we will discuss it all, which I'm very excited for. I think Emma Hayes, when she first got here, was like so enamored with all of the questions she was getting. I feel like we can see her getting so jaded in real time in every single post-game interview. I feel so bad.
I wouldn't want to do them.
Yeah, I get it. You're like, I'm getting asked the same questions all the time. I'm just a broken record now. She's resorted to cooking metaphors, if that gives you any indication as to how bored she might be of some of these questions. Okay, Allie, did you enjoy your international break?
No.
Okay, moving on. All right, let's do it. International break. Let's kick it off.
So we are now into match days 3 and 4 of Nations League. So we're starting to get a bit of a picture of who's going to qualify, who's going to have to go into the playoff tournament. There was a lot happened in those 3 to 4 games, and then the last 2, for people who want to know, will be happening June 5th and June 9th, and then we will definitely know who's automatically qualified and who has to go into the playoff stages.
All right. Yeah, there was a lot that was happening. Honestly, with only 2 games left, everything's wide open. There's not one team that has officially fully secured a spot in the World Cup just based on points at all in any of these groups. I do want to say, for notable wins, the Republic of Ireland, they're in a group with, I would argue the toughest group, Netherlands, France, Republic of Ireland, and Poland. It's Group B. They beat Poland 1-0. They keep up with France and the Netherlands, who are just 1 and 2 points ahead of them in Group B, respectively. So you look at Group B, Netherlands in first with 8 points, France in second with 7, Republic of Ireland in third with 6 points. Poland have just 1 point. Go Ireland. Allie's like, yeah, but it's not going to happen.
No, but we're going to talk about it more when we talk about the US and the games against Japan, because the way you qualify, as we mentioned last week, is so different depending on federation. So I don't think it matters because it's very unlikely.
Yeah. So a reminder, correct me if I'm wrong here, Allie, the number 1, whoever finishes first in each group will automatically qualify, and then the second place teams will go into a playoff. Numbers 3 and 4 in each group are done. Okay, we're back here after a small pause. Here's what's happening. The qualifications here are so just utterly ridiculously complicated and confusing. We had to double check. So I did misspeak. Ireland's World Cup hopes are not dashed. Honestly, neither would Poland's be, because here's what happens. The runners-up and third-place teams from League A will go into like what we're calling the Path 1 playoffs. The fourth-place teams will go in around a Path 2 playoffs, if you will. So basically, if you're in League A and you don't win your group, you still have a chance to qualify for the World Cup. It just gets a lot harder, but you will enter a playoff with teams from either League B or League C. That is the least complicated way I feel that I can explain that. Did that make any sense at all?
It does make sense, except the structure doesn't make sense, but the way you explained it makes sense.
True, but we will come on to the structure of things later on, Allie, when we talk about the U.S. and CONCACAF qualifying, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Other notable wins, Allie?
Speaking of the heavy hitters, Netherlands and France have both played each other twice. In game 1, the Netherlands took it 2-1, and in game 2, they drew 1-1. That is the big heavyweight matchup of Group B.
I think both of these teams for me right now are kind of favorites. Like if we were to make a World Cup bracket for 2027 where everybody stands right now, these two teams would be at the top of my favorites list to win it all. I think they both look outstanding, which is kind of wild considering where the Netherlands are right now and what we're almost calling somewhat of a rebuild. Like they've really graduated out a lot of elder players, but the rebuild seems to be very, very quick for the Netherlands.
I will say their new head coach is phenomenal. He was Serena's assistant for many years, and also that means he was there when they won the Euros and got as far as they did in previous World Cups and Olympics and such. So I think that's been a huge thing about it, is the fact that he has been very well versed in the Netherlands system.
France are, I mean, obviously always going to be on the favorites list, but always going to is gonna disappoint, but I have to put them on there anyways. France, one of these years, I hope you don't. I still think they got the bad end of the stick in 2019, but that's okay. Moving along, finally, Germany drew 0-0 with Austria, their first non-win, and Austria's first point. Germany is just 1 point now ahead of Norway. Notably, Minge got a red card in the 79th minute, but I don't think that you can attribute Minge, sorry. Minge means something weird in England, doesn't it?
It's filth.
It's filth?
Yeah.
Keep that in, Mike. Please. You can bleep it if you want. Minga got a red card in the 79th minute, but I will say you can't attribute the 0-0 draw to a red card in the 79th minute. So good on Austria for that. Should we talk about Norway briefly? I mean...
See, you talk about France always disappointing.
They do in a different way. We can't compare how Norway and France disappoint. They disappoint in different ways. I feel like France are the team that everybody always thinks they could maybe win this World Cup, and then they always underperform. Norway is just a disaster. Like, just for lack of a better term, I'm sorry, like a shit show.
You're not wrong.
Norway are never the favorites to win a tournament, but they still somehow underperform. They used to be.
They are currently second in Group D behind that German squad. As you said, they've got 3 wins, 1 loss, and that 1 loss was to Germany. So they're doing all right so far.
So far. Other notable standings here. Group A, Denmark, Sweden, Italy, and Serbia. Right now, Denmark are at the top. Sweden in second, and Italy in fifth. Denmark has 8 points, Sweden with 7, and Italy with 5. Surprised or not?
To be honest, that's about right, I would say.
Shocking. I would have put Sweden ahead of Denmark for sure in terms of the pecking order.
Yeah, but Denmark do well in this type of situations. Then when they go into tournaments that they don't. It also makes me laugh that the amount of times that Denmark and Sweden play each other. And it's one of those ones, it's a bit like when a home nation other than England qualify for a tournament, you can guarantee they're going to be in the same group. And it feels like the same with Denmark and Sweden. It's the harder Eriksson
heated rivalry. They will play each other. Denmark and Sweden will face off June 5th. That's the first day of, or it's match day 5 of 6. And I kind of think maybe whoever wins that will end up taking that first place in that qualifying slot. But you never know. We'll see. In match day 6, Sweden then play Italy. So we'll find out.
Yes, Group C, which is the one with England. England are currently topping the table with 4 wins out of 4, so they have 12 points. Spain have got 3 wins and just that one loss to England. Iceland have just the 1 win against Ukraine at 3 points, and Ukraine unfortunately have 4 losses out of 4.
So let's talk England and let's talk Spain. Do you think this is the hardest group to be in? When I said that the Group B with Netherlands, France, and Ireland was, do you disagree? Do you think it's Group C here?
Correct.
Because you think Iceland as a third-ish place team is better than Italy, or excuse me, is better than Ireland as a third-ish place team?
No, because it's one of those things that you expect, no offence to the other nations, but you expect England and Spain to qualify for these tournaments. And so the fact they're in the same group, which means that one's got to do it the really hard way and one can do it the thing. So I think it's that it's always going to come down to those 2 games.
Yeah. I mean, I feel the same about Netherlands, France, but I do kind of love that England, Spain has become, I feel like it's become a rivalry. Obviously, they played against each other in the World Cup final, so of course it has, but it's become a bit of like an international European rivals.
Don't forget the Euros final.
Of course, the Euros final, yes. The one that England won. Yeah, I forgot about that one. The more recent one also.
Yes, we're one each. You know, they took the World Cup, we took the Euros.
That's right. And then you took this most recent game. England won twice this international break. 1-0 over Spain and 1-0 over Iceland. I'm surprised you were texting me. You thought it was a bit of a bore. You told me, I think you texted me, England are winning and the game is boring. And I said, I'm surprised at both of those things. Which is kind of on me. I think at this point I shouldn't be surprised. If
yeah,
England...
you're so against England. You are so
okay,
against
don't call
England.
Don't call me a hater. I'm not against England. I feel like Spain could be so good. And maybe that's where we should start here. Is like my biggest takeaway from watching games this international break and watching this England-Spain game was that Sonia Bermudez is certainly not fit to be the head coach of this Spanish national team. And we knew that when she got hired, but we were really holding out hope because we were like, okay, well, Montse Tomé is out, but, maybe. But then we looked at the coaching tree and we were like, okay, well, she's come up in the same coaching tree, right? Unfortunately, the reality is Spain will continue, in my opinion, to waste potentially the most concentrated amount of world-class talent on the international stage until they get a coach that can handle the amount of talent that they have. And these coaches just simply don't have the capability of doing so.
Yeah, I think my biggest takeaway was that Spain didn't look like Spain at all. Like, you know what, England were good, don't get me wrong, they were good, but they weren't the best I've ever seen England. And the fact that, to be honest, Spain should have capitalised and did not. Like, if Lopez had a pound for every time she hit the bar, she'd be a very rich lady.
Alessia Russo was phenomenal. I will say every time I watch her play, I'm more and more convinced that she's just in her most peak form right now, and I hope it continues through 2027 because she's a treat to watch right now. Okay, question for you. After these games, how are you feeling about England as a whole? Are you feeling more positive than the previous international window, more negative, feeling pretty much the same? Where are you at?
I'm pretty neutral at the moment. I'm pretty the thing. And if y'all check out our Patreon, you'll hear me and Mike talk about like selection specifically, because most of the positions are locked down at the moment. There's a couple that are up for grabs, but most of them are pretty set. And so, we're looking good, we're looking all right, but we're not playing the most thrilling football. But you don't have to in these kind of situations. In this situation, it's a mini tournament. You want to smash and grab, you can take a smash and grab. But I feel like better teams would have punished us. Like, no offense to Iceland, but you know what? We should be scoring more than one against them. And we didn't. Like a 1-0 against Spain is a decent result. A 1-0 against Iceland, you can't help but come away a bit disappointed.
Fair enough. As Allie said, head to the Patreon if you want to hear more about in-depth the selection process, who Allie and Mike think should maybe play in a different position, who should be the starting midfielder. I don't know, but I'm guessing that the center back, outside back role came up, as it always does for England. Did it?
It did, except for we used the correct terminology by saying left and right back.
Outside back is just the umbrella term. It's all encompassing. Every time I hear a commentator say that now on live TV, I'm like, it wasn't just me. We do say that.
Oh no, you do. You do. You also say penalty kicks, which infuriates me.
We also say PK. Do you guys say PK?
No.
We say, let's do PKs right now. Let's practice our PKs.
Jesus. You're ruining the beautiful
The
day.
only one I agree with you guys on is the offside versus the offsides debacle. But there's no S. It's an offside position. I get it. The last thing I want to discuss in terms of England, it might not even be a discussion. Maybe it's just me posing this question for everybody to mull over. But for some reason, I started to get the feeling, and I want to raise this question. Do you think that the World Cup in 2027 will be Serena's final tournament with the England Lionesses?
I don't think so. I think, well, maybe. Maybe if we win it, she might, because that's the last one left. But you know what? She's got a good thing going. She's very well respected over here, you know. She can pretty much do what she wants. Another federation may not be as lenient or as freeing as that. So I don't know, but I don't think so. I think she's pretty happy. Because, like, where else would she go?
I was just going to ask, where would you see her if not England? You don't think she'd do Spain? Because of the constraints by the federation.
Exactly. She's going to want a federation, so maybe a Germany.
That could be really fun.
Or France. Both of those would be, especially because France is going through that phase now where they're aging out certain players, so, and she likes to build from the bottom up. So France would probably give her that creative freedom that she likes. So my bet would be either France or Germany.
Serena with Germany would be kind of a force to be reckoned with. I'm not going to lie. Yeah, really, really fucking terrifying. I'm not going to lie. In a great way. I want to watch that. I want to watch that team. My main fear with this is that if it is, and the England job is open, if Emma Hayes will leave early and go to England. But I don't think so. I think she loves it here. I would like to think. I hope. Let's go around the world. Around the world, around the world. International edition.
To Oceania, and we have our tribute for the World Cup from the Oceania district. New Zealand beat Papua New Guinea 1-0 to secure their place. Papua New Guinea, however, will now go into the playoffs to try and secure their position.
To South America, we had 3 rounds on the CONMEBOL League this weekend to see who will join Brazil in the World Cup. Argentina and Colombia are currently the front runners after both gained 2 wins and a draw this break. Venezuela and Chile are currently in prime position for the playoffs.
To North America and Canada had 3 friendlies this week against South Korea, Zambia and Brazil with 2 wins and 1 loss, leaving them in a very good stead for the World Cup qualifiers.
Certainly 2 of those teams have already qualified, huh? And for the rest of the world, Australia won both of their friendlies this break. South Africa beat Algeria, Morocco drew with Mali, and South Korea drew with Zambia.
Now at McDonald's, a McDouble is $2.50, so you can get your gym gains on. Or just get lunch for only $2.50. Get more value on the under $3 menu.
Limited time only. Prices and participation may vary. Prices may be higher for delivery.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
You know you need fiber for a healthy gut, but do you actually know how to get it? Quaker's been serving up fiber since 1877, with over 100 great-tasting, good source of fiber options to choose from. Whether you like old-fashioned oats, instant oatmeal, granola, or oatmeal squares, Quaker makes it delicious. So good. Get your fiber with Quaker. Shop Quaker's good source of fiber products at a store near you.
Tomorrow morning is knocking. Stock your fridge now. How about a creamy mocha frappuccino drink? Or a sweet vanilla? Smooth caramel maybe? Or a white chocolate mocha? Whichever you choose, delicious coffee awaits. Find Starbucks Frappuccino drinks wherever you buy your groceries.
Over to the US now, and they had the great test of playing the same team 3 times. They played Japan 3 times. It's an international break. They took 2 wins, 1 loss. So it does say a lot about the US national team having played this opponent. So take it away, Sarah. What does it tell us about the US?
So much. I feel like every game told us something different. I do wonder if Emma Hayes set this up very strategically and very specifically to play the same opponent 3 times. Number one, so that she could see different personnel against the same opponent instead of trying to judge different personnel against different opponents, which is really hard to do because every game is different. Also, I think she wants this team to get used to changing up their tactics. And she's spoken a lot about how in Champions League, if you win the first game, the second game is so much harder. And so I think she wanted that kind of a test. U.S. won the first game 3-0, lost the second game 1-0, and won the third game 2-1. Honestly, none of that really matters. And I really enjoyed the fact that Emma Hayes continued to really harp on the fact and emphasize that obviously winning is good, but it's not good at the expense of what they're trying to build. Because we for some reason still have the people in this country who like tune in to the U.S. Women's National Team every once in a blue moon and turn on the TV and think, why aren't we winning 7-0? And I feel like Emma Hayes is continuously battling against those people. So I appreciated that she continued to emphasize that. I feel like there's a lot to discuss here, Allie, but I actually feel like maybe, I don't know. I have quite a bit of bullet points. Starting with the goalkeepers.
Yes, because that's the one that we all care about at the moment. Ever since Naya's retirement from international duty, it has been who is going to be the US number 1. And we're still no nearer.
No, we're not, which is hilarious because I feel like Emma Hayes' first press conference, I asked her about goalkeepers, and she gave a timeline that was like, 4 months from now, we'll probably have the pool narrowed down. They didn't. Whether they are closer to selecting a goalkeeper or not, no idea. Because what they're telling us is basically nothing. What we do know is that Claudia Dickey played twice. Fallon Tillis-Joyce played once. It wasn't the greatest of showings, I would say, from Fallon. Having seen what she can do in the WSL, I just didn't think that what she was able to do on the international stage quite compared to how she shows in the WSL, which I'm disappointed for her about. And also perhaps it was more of a difficult situation to play in. If I'm not wrong, I believe she played in the second game, and that's when a ton of youth were playing. That was the game Japan won, but you know what? The goal that they conceded, it was not good at all. Not a goal they should have conceded whatsoever. So if I'm ranking who had a better performance, I think Claudia Dickey came out of this international break ahead of Fallon Tillis-Joyce. That's my own personal opinion. Literally no indication from Emma whatsoever, which is super fair. And she's trying to get everybody minutes, and that means across the board. That includes goalkeepers and trying to build a lot of young talent and build the pool to be larger. So this very well could be her not even deciding, just getting everybody experience. Who knows? She keeps those cards close to the vest. Close to the chest. I think it's... Okay, we had this discussion. And I got actually a lot of replies, because I believe I posted this on social media. I said it was close to the vest, and you said, no, it's close to the chest. And I got a lot of replies saying, no, it's close to the vest, that I was right about it.
I feel like that's American, because in England, it's close to your chest, right, Michael?
All right. The AI overview says that they are both acceptable idioms, and they both mean to keep plans or information discreet. And close to the vest is considered the original American phrase.
American, there we go. Okay, so close to the vest came about in America in the 1950s, whereas close to the chest has been around since Victorian times. So therefore, close to the chest came first.
But both are acceptable. All right, let's get back to the U.S. Women's National Team.
Badger News team, you had a lot of returns for this international break. So we saw Sophia Wilson come back. We saw Tiana Davidson come back. So those were big things. And then if anybody wants something sweet, was it Sophia Wilson's child with Emma Hayes when they were doing the training, and Emma Hayes is just holding her being like, all right, what are you doing?
It's so cute. It's really cute. Emma Hayes was asked about Sophia Wilson on the post-game press conference, and obviously spoke really highly of her and was like, she's shaking off the rust. I thought she showed a massive improvement from game to game, this being, her first time back. And I agree with what Emma said. Like, she did start to very quickly look like herself again. Like, she shook that rust off real quickly. But the cutest phrase was, Emma was like, it was Sophia and Gigi's first camp together, and they had a great time. And I was like, oh, it's really sweet. Other notable things, Claire Hutton got the armband. I love to see that. Listen, Claire Hutton is certainly the future of the U.S. Women's National Team. And if you were ever wondering, Emma Hayes giving her the armband was a pretty good indication of that. Naomi Girma and Kennedy Wesley scored. Hooray for center back scoring. Hooray for Stanford center back scoring. We love that. Emma Hayes made a point to say she was challenging this team to get better at set pieces. They scored a lot on set pieces. That was really positive. Okay, I have a few more things to say, Allie, but I'm going to say this first. One of my biggest headline takeaways, you're going to be shocked. Lindsay Heaps is insanely important to this team.
Impressive. Why? Yeah, because I've seen her play for Lyon, and I would not come to that conclusion. So
maybe it was just the difference, again, going back to the second game, where it was just like so much youth and there wasn't a ton going on. When Lindsay Heaps came onto the field, it was a noticeable difference, a noticeable change, not just in energy, but also in direction, where suddenly it went from a team that was just trying to possess the ball but had no idea how to break down that strong 5-back that Japan had gone into because they were up 1-0. And they looked really lost, kind of like chickens with their head cut off, no direction. And Lindsay Heaps came in and gave the squad direction. And I think it's true what Emma Hayes says is like, this is a player who has played at the pinnacle for a long time, and she has a lot of knowledge, and she is, that level of true professional where if you need somebody to come in a game who has experience breaking down the best of a 5-back and knows what to do and knows where to lead the team, she's going to do it. And I just think this solidified for me, who honestly, if I'm being totally frank, like I've been a little on the fence about how important she is to this team. She's insanely important, and I think I learned that in this break.
Yeah. Is there any other thing that's come mainly from Emma Hayes out of these last 3 games, getting a good idea of what she's going to bring to you guys?
I think that she was continuing to harp on the fact that this is about development. And we thought this when we saw the whole structure of what Emma Hayes is overseeing when she initially got hired by U.S. Soccer, because she's not just overseeing the U.S. Women's National Team, she's overseeing the entirety of the development system, and she gets to restructure it. She gets to do whatever the hell she wants with it. And she is here to develop players and develop a pipeline and develop talent, and she has made that very clear. Who she played, how she did the starting lineups, how many people she played, everything. And everything she said after the game, it just continues to point to that. It's about getting young players in different and difficult situations, seeing how they react, but also getting them experience so that they develop. I feel like the other thing we learned is just like Emma Hayes isn't really pressed about not scoring that many goals. She's seemingly very confident that the final third piece, it'll come together with connections, and especially when they're not rotating lineups so much and they have more veteran players and more veteran goal scorers on the field. She's just kind of seemingly understanding that will come. So I'm not concerned either. I feel great about where we are. I'm not going to lie. Crushing it. But we'll see. We will see when we get into CONCACAF qualifying, Allie, and we will use that as a transition now, because let's talk about CONCACAF qualifying.
I have so many thoughts about this. Oh, right. So the first thing I have to say about CONCACAF qualifying, the first thought that came to my brain is, should there be a standardization across all federations in terms of how teams qualify for major tournaments?
My first reaction is there can't be. First of all, you even just look at how many spots each region has. Europe has 11 automatic qualifying spots. CONCACAF, I don't remember, believe has 3, maybe 2. It just can't be. We can't play in a Nations League because we don't have as many teams for qualifying.
But you could play in a form of that, in the fact that you could play like the way the Champions League group stages are set up, in the fact that you could have one big table and you could play it that way. There is enough of you to do that.
Break it down for me. Like, how would you set this up?
So for example, the reason I've thought about this is because they've announced the thing for the CONCACAF, and essentially the top ranked teams can play one game and automatically get into World Cup, because you've got 4 spots, because the 4 semi-finalists of CONCACAF will go to the World Cup. England have got to play 6 games, or 5, 6 games.
Yeah, but that's also just, like I said, a consequence of how many teams are trying to qualify in Europe as compared to how many teams are trying to qualify in Central and North America.
But I can't think of another nation that has to only play one game, or like one federation that only has to play one game to then get, because other nations in CONCACAF have had to play qualifiers in order to get this far, but the top ranked teams in that federation got an automatic bye to the quarterfinals. It's like in the Subway Cup when you have teams that have had to play in all the group stages, and then the teams that are in Champions League just come in at the quarters. It doesn't rank with me. So you could, in theory, do what they do in the Champions League at the moment, which is you play in one big table. So you have to play multiple times. You don't just play in one game, and then the top 4 teams, after having all played each other, will then qualify.
Then go into the playoff situation. I wouldn't mind that. I think that's fun. I think that's a lot more fun. I do think that gives you the issue that the Nations League is trying to avoid in dividing into leagues A, B, C, which is if you were to create a big table like that within CONCACAF, you're going to get rugby scores. You're just going to. And it's not going to be great for the viewer or for women's football.
Yeah, fair. All right then. Or you could, if you want to do what they've done here, which is they've, like I said, the top 4 seeded teams ultimately got to the quarterfinals. Well, then you do your top 8 and do it that way, just so that you're not playing one game to then automatically get qualified.
You're a little salty that England have to play at minimum 6 games to qualify, and the US can play 2.
It's all European. No, you don't play 2. You play 1. That's what I'm saying. If you beat, and because you were one of the top ranked teams, you automatically went into the quarters. So it is a game. And like I said, it's not just England. I can't think of any other federation where you only play one game and you can get qualification for a major tournament. The Asia Cup was multiple games, and then they got their qualification. The African Cup of Nations will be multiple games, and then they get their qualification. Oceania was multiple games, and then they got their qualification. South America is a mini league of Nations League, and they will play multiple times to get their qualifications. I can't think of any other federation. This is why I was asking about standardization of federation. Any other federation where because Oceania did that, they took their top ranked teams and they didn't have to play all of the qualification games, but they still had to play a few in order, like New Zealand had to play a few games in order to get to Papua New Guinea to then qualify for the World Cup. So that's what I'm saying. Like, the way I personally would do it is you can do it where the lower ranked teams have to play each other to qualify, but then when you get to your top 8, you then do it in a Champions League format where you all have to play each other.
Listen, as a viewer, I would love that. I feel like this CONCACAF, W qualifiers, it's too short. I don't mind it. I don't think a standardization is ever possible, but I do see where you're coming from in terms of you can look at every single qualification process, and other than the host nation, everybody has to play at least a few or 2 or 3 games to qualify. Whereas here, the US and Canada only have to play in 1. I would be down. I mean, I would personally love that, and I would love to see more games. I think that would be really fun because where we're at is that we're basically starting in the quarterfinals. I get where that comes from for sure. Hey, you never know. The US could lose that quarterfinal game.
You could. You don't know. You could, tournament football is very unpredictable.
Okay, so how this breaks down for CONCACAF W Championship, the qualifiers, the road to Brazil, which we discussed in the last episode, is at the end of 2026. In November, in December, in that window that goes November to December, the final international break window, it will be United States against El Salvador, Canada versus Panama, Jamaica versus Costa Rica, and Mexico against Haiti. The winners of those will meet in the semifinals, and of course, the winners of those will meet in the championship. But a reminder, as Allie said, whoever makes it to the semifinals, all four get the automatic qualification spots into the World Cup. So whoever wins all four of those matches, we will see in the World Cup for sure. The other ones will go into the playoff. I like what you proposed, Allie. I think we should send it to CONCACAF.
I'm just saying.
I like it. I can't see anything wrong with it. I think that maybe some people will be like, oh, it's more games. I don't like that. But everybody else is playing more games, so I want to see it. All right. I think that does it for us with this international break. NWSL returns this weekend. WSL returns this weekend. There are not many games left in the WSL, Allie.
No, there's not. No, there's a couple left. It's all, squeaky bum time, as we call it, to see about the relegation. Man City look like they've all but won it, so yeah, it'll be interesting.
Yeah, from Saturday, City will take on Brighton at Brighton. There's some really good and important matchups. I mean, West Ham, Liverpool, that'll tell us a lot about relegation for West Ham. Tottenham United will be very interesting. There will be a midweek game, a makeup game for match day 14. Arsenal will play Leicester City. A lot of good things happening here. And I should have done this math beforehand. However, I will do it now live. If City win this week and Chelsea win, they will still be 9 points different with two games remaining. So City actually can clinch the title this weekend with a win.
Yes.
There we go. So tune in, everybody. That's Saturday morning for me. Saturday, I'm assuming evening for you. For those of you who are watching in the U.S., it's, brace yourselves, Saturday 4 a.m. Pacific time, 7 a.m. Eastern time. All right, so we're back to club, and we will have a lot to discuss next week when we talk about it all. For us here at the Women's Soccer Show, I've been Sarah.
And I've been Allie.
Thanks, everyone.
Good night.